Working particularly with death row prisoners. How did that begin? Why did you do that?
Okay, well, it actually wasn't mainly death row, but certainly that was a component. Basically, since '94, I've really been based in the States. Not that I'm on the road now all the time, but I was editing a Buddhist magazine. It's been my profession much of my life, editing, working with words and books and things. And I got a letter. We got a letter, 96, 20 years ago, from a young Mexican, Arturo, in one of the prisons in California, and he was 18 at the time, and he told me he'd been in prison since he's 12, juvenile. Then, since he's 16, was sentenced to 3 life sentences, and the sentencing there is incredibly strong. I could, talk so much about that. And he, not for killing anyone, he'd just been in gangs in Los Angeles, which is very powerful there. So he was sitting in his cell 23 hours a day in one of these intense top security prisons. The whole prison is this, thousands of these men in their cells 23 hours a day, and they're the ones who've been the troublemakers on the other main prison yards, because the gang activity in the prisons in America, but in California especially, is intense. So he'd read this Buddhist book, had nothing else to do in his 23 hours a day, and he was moved by the talk of compassion, so our address was there, the magazine. So he wrote. So I wrote back, and within a year I had 40 people writing, and would send books and then would visit them, and it grew from there.
And what did you do with the prisoners?
Well, it's interesting. I did exactly the same as I do with people who aren't in prison. Give them material, answer their questions, give them Buddhist teachings if that's what they wanted, and then it's up to them to run with it if they wanted. So in one sense, it was no different. In one sense, what I tell them is no different. But what I find interesting is that because their lives are such garbage lives and these dumps, treated like animals, many of them, with these intense sentences, some of them won't get out alive, and certainly the death row ones won't, then there's nowhere to turn. There's nothing to look forward to in the general sense. So then they either go nuts or they go inside, and the Buddhist tools suited them very well.
Why do you think most people who live a sort of Western Judeo-Christian lifestyle tend to think of suffering as bad?
The thing that drives all of us, the Buddha would say, and this is primordial, it's including the animals, he would call it attachment, which is this cute word. And don't use the definition we use in the West because it sounds too terrible. It's another definition altogether. It's this bottomless pit of dissatisfaction within us that drives us, that then brings enormous sense of hankering after something, because the sense of dissatisfaction means I'm missing something. And so it's primordial. It's not too intellectual. It's like a motor. And so then naturally this craving for something, first of all, gloms onto objects of the senses. And then there's the conviction that when I get it, it'll make me happy. And then we, grab onto it. It's highly sophisticated how it works. But this drives us. And so you could say then, this craving and attachment is like this motor that drives us. And all it wants is the nice things. It's a junkie for the nice things. And of course, the millisecond it doesn't get it, that's called the bad things. And that's when aversion or anger, or indeed if it's internalized, or depression manifest. So we're going between this attachment and aversion 1,000 times a day, quite low level. But it's only when they get to an intense level that we start to notice, and then it's a bit late to deal with it,
I suppose I've been reading a lot about terrorism.
Yes.
Recently.
That's right, of course.
And you to feel that, the world is getting a more difficult place. Where can you go to be safe and enjoy yourself? And you realise that there isn't
there isn't. This is the point. We all want to be happy. We all want to have peace. We all want to live in a nice place with lovely friends and neighbours and not too many rats and cockroaches and nice things to happen. Completely reasonable. Normal. Animals want it. Dogs want it. Ants want it, Nothing wrong with that. So then the key is, I suppose, to find the methods, and this is the thing, to find the methods that will accomplish that. So if we can get that, what a bonus. But if we can't, the way I like to say it is, why be miserable as well? So many of my friends in prison who know they can't get out of prison. So if you're completely convinced that getting out of prison is going to make you happy, but you can't, you'll go mad. So if you're completely convinced that you're going to find a safe place where nothing guaranteed will ever go wrong, I'm sorry, it's a nightmare, because we can see from our own experience that it's not true. No matter where we go, something can always go wrong. So that's not negative. It's not even cynical. Recognizing the reality of life, which is that things change and bad things happen, even if you don't have explanations for why, then we can learn to have resilience, internal resilience, and learn how to not go nuts in the face of it. What else,
Do you ever worry about your own resilience going forward? Getting old, for example?
Well, no, I don't seem to, luckily. No, I
don't seem to get old, or you don't seem to worry?
I'm getting old, but I don't see. No, I mean, I'm Sagittarius. I'm 72 this year. I seem to be, wow, look at me. I'm on 70 aeroplanes a year. My body's as fit as a fiddle. One of my Chinese doctor friends recently said I'm fitter than she's ever seen me. You know, and I think I don't get jet lag, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I know I'm getting old, and I'm not thinking of when I'm going to stop. I'm not thinking of where I'm going to live. I don't really have a home. I don't seem to worry about those things too much.
What about the world of Buddhism?
Yes.
The Dalai Lama is getting older.
Yes, right.
When he dies, it's highly likely that the Chinese government will select their own Dalai Lama.
They're dying. I think they're going to use that opportunity, definitely. It could be difficult. It could be very difficult.
Does the bigger picture concern you?
I know, Jane, I can only say it if it's there in my mind, and I'm not trying to sound all holy as if I'm good at all this, but I realise there's no benefit in thinking about it because I can't control it or change it. So and I mean that sincerely, and this is really what I'm trying to do, part of my practice, is to have this kind of internal resilience, to have optimism, not like Pollyanna, but optimism in the sense that no matter what happens, you can deal with it. No matter what happens, the more you change your mind, the more I lessen my anger and my fears and my craving and my neediness for things to be perfect, the more resilient you become, the more brave you come in the face of whatever happens. And that's all I can do. That much I can do. And then I love that phrase our mummies taught us. You know, and every day I'm doing this, I'm paving the way. I'm paving the way. And each time, and very much the Buddhist process, I'm growing something internal. I'm growing this person. And then, of course, the Buddha, you would say, carries on later. Then fine, I'm happy to keep doing that.
Are you happy? Is that a simplistic question?
No, it's not simplistic. So let me check it up. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to check up myself. Okay, so the Buddhist view of happiness in a simple way is internal. So it's the extent to which you're less attached, less angry, less jealous, less depressed, less fearful, less neurotic, less arrogant, less low self-esteem, and therefore more confident, more kind, more resilient, and more compassionate. So I'm moving along very nicely, paving my way on this path. Thank you.
We all feel that, well, not everybody, I suppose. Maybe I should just say I feel that I could work on my compassion. How does somebody work on compassion?
If I think of someone, let's say I'm an alcoholic, first point has to be that I realise I'm suffering, isn't it? So that's the first step in the Buddhist way. You've got to realise you're suffering at whatever level, without being a drama queen. Once I realise that and then find the causes and then learn to find the solution, and I'm talking at simple level here, then I look at others in the same boat. Of course I'm going to have compassion. I've got to know it myself first. Rather than standing off and thinking, look at all those alcoholics out there, how dare they? So arrogance, beyond arrogance, you know. So me, the wisdom wing is seeing in me those things. I mean, I'm a news junkie. I read in my iPad, I have my Financial Times and New York Times, The Age, New Yorker, Vogue, Vanity Fair, and I love reading about human beings. It's grist for my mill. And so for me, the biggest one of the wisdom wing is to see all these things out there. And I read about Mr. Trump, you know, it's easy to be so arrogant and point fingers, isn't it? And
It is.
And to be holier than thou.
Since you brought that up.
Yeah. You know. But my feeling, okay, let's talk. But my feeling is if I can see Mr. Trump and using my view of the mind, understand what's driving him, and I can say to myself, I recognise that. Thank you for showing me, Mr. Trump, how not to be. Then I can have empathy, and then I can be, then I can be useful, rather than standing off with this arrogance as if I'm so perfect, which is we love to do this.
But can you still have empathy if Mr. Trump becomes president?
I can still see what drives him and have empathy with him, and indeed for other people. But I think that's not impossible. I have empathy for the pedophiles I see in prison. Of course I do, because I'm seeing they're harming themselves, and that's my main point. And we tend, I think, in our model of seeing suffering, we want to have we want an innocent victim and a monster. That suits us. But I think it's more nuanced than that. And I'm not trying to be cliched here. I think we are all suffering, and that means our own neuroses are causing us, our own actions cause us suffering, and that's what causes us to harm others. So compassion doesn't mean it's all cute and soft. Compassion can be tough, you know.
Robina, you travel, as you said, you travel so much every year.
Yes.
You're about to stay in a small cave in the hills. You go to cities. You go all over the place.
That's right.
Do you have a favourite location to be?
Yes, I'm a big city girl. I love Sydney. Los Angeles. New York City, my favourite. London, I like big cities. I'm an action girl. I like big cities. And I think even if I do retire, first of all, I wouldn't retire to do much meditation. I'd retire to do editing. It's one of my jobs, and I love to edit. So I mean, my ideal scenario, and I haven't got it yet, would be a little apartment in New York up in the sky, so I can do my editing, be peaceful and quiet, and do my practice, and then go downstairs to the jazz club. You know, that would be my ideal scenario.
Robina Courtin, has been such a pleasure. Thank you for speaking with me on 1+1.
Enjoyed the talk. Thank you.
1+1 is available on iView. You can browse the archive or contact us through the website. Stay in touch and leave comments via Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter. I look forward to your company next time. From me, goodbye.